Karen accused me of kidnapping my own child, and I nearly got arrested for it. So there I am, browsing the aisles of the local grocery store, a restless 1.5-year-old securely fastened in the child seat of my cart. My mission: to gather the ingredients for my wife's favorite dessert. She has a thing for this over-the-top triple chocolate mousse cake for Mother's Day. We'd barely entered the baking aisle when my son, we'll call him Max for the sake of the story, spots this fancy cake slicer on the shelf. Now, you can't blame a toddler's curiosity, but you certainly can't hand them a sharp utensil. So, naturally, I told Max no. Well, any parent can tell you what happened next. World-class meltdown, right there in aisle 5. Max starts wailing like I've committed the most egregious crime imaginable, which in his world, I suppose, denying him that shiny cake slicer might have been. But, despite the tears and the noise, I had a mission to complete. And this is when our titular Karen decides to grace us with her presence. She had the trademark haircut, the look of disapproval, and an uncanny knack for inserting herself into business that wasn't hers. Karen sidled up, looked at Max's tear-streaked face, then at me, and asked, "Are you the child's father?" Taken back but still polite, I responded, "Yes, I am. Just dealing with a tantrum, you know how it is." I tried to smile, but Karen's eyes narrowed suspiciously, her lips set into a thin, unamused line. That should have been my warning. As I navigated the store, I noticed Karen lurking behind corners, peeking through the shelves, following us. Not wanting to cause a scene, I did my best to ignore her, focusing on getting everything on my list. I even tried to engage Max in a game of I Spy, hoping it would help him forget about his meltdown. It was near the dairy section that Karen's whispers reached me. She had flagged down the store manager, a friendly middle-aged man named Ted, known for his cheery disposition and a love for high fives. Karen was gesturing towards me, her face taut with concern, or maybe it was satisfaction. Ted looked worried, and soon enough, he started trailing us too. Now I had my very own following: Max, me, Karen, and Ted. Quite a parade. Despite their persistent trailing, I made it to the self-checkout, keeping my calm for Max's sake. He'd finally quieted down, now engrossed in a shiny milk carton I'd handed him. I scanned our items, paid, and was about to heave a sigh of relief as we headed towards the exit. That's when the cops showed up. The checkout assistant, a young girl who probably just started her shift, nervously pointed at me when the officers asked her something. I felt my heart drop. They approached me, stern looks on their faces. "Sir, we've received a complaint about a possible child abduction." My jaw nearly hit the floor. Abduction? This is my son. But Karen wouldn't back down. Now emboldened, she piped up with a completely fabricated story about how she saw me snatch Max from another person and had been trying to hide throughout the store. I kept reiterating, "He's my son, this is a misunderstanding," but it fell on deaf ears. Karen was too busy weaving her tale. The officers were trying to calm the situation, and poor Ted looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. In desperation, I suggested they call my wife. This seemed to please the officers. They asked for her number and dialed it up, but the phone just rang and rang, as my wife, a doctor, was likely in the middle of her shift. I started to worry about how far this would escalate. Still, I persisted. If you review the store's security tapes, you'll see that this is a misunderstanding. Finally, someone decided that was a good idea, and Ted, along with one of the officers, hurried off to access the CCTV footage. While we waited, I did my best to keep Max calm and oblivious to the situation. I bounced him on my knee and sang a bit of his favorite nursery rhyme. Despite everything, he seemed happy. He was, after all, still clutching that shiny milk carton. It was a ludicrous scene. The police kept me there for what felt like forever, but it was probably just 15 minutes before Ted came back, clearly relieved. He looked at the officers, then at me, and said, "The footage is clear. He's been shopping with the child since they entered the store." The officers, seeing the truth, apologized to me. It was a tense situation, they said, a mix-up, but their apologies couldn't undo the humiliation and the stress. I looked at Karen, expecting her to apologize too, but she just huffed, muttered something under her breath, and stormed off. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was my wife calling back. I quickly filled her in on the situation. There was a pause on the line, and then she erupted in laughter. "Did you just get accused of kidnapping our own son?" She was finding this much funnier than I did at the time. In the end, Max and I made it home, ingredients for the triple chocolate mousse cake in hand. We baked it together, Max happily smearing chocolate on his face. Despite the afternoon's debacle, his giggles brought me back to why I was doing this, because I loved my family and I would wade through 1,000 Karens for them. In hindsight, I can maybe understand Karen's concern. If she genuinely thought a child was in danger, then I commend her for trying to protect him. But the fact that she refused to listen to reason or accept any proof that contradicted her version of the story was infuriating. All this taught me that reality can sometimes be stranger than fiction. And next time, I'll be doing my shopping online. So to all you parents out there, beware of the Karens in aisle 5. And whatever you do, don't let your toddler eye the shiny cake slicers. Mercy me, what gives here? I would definitely want to err on the side of safety, but it seems that this particular Karen took things a bit off the rails. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.